related policies and regulations are extremely important because of very, very strong policies and regulation related to demand side management and also scheduling, forecasting, etc. So, and also whatever number crunching any investor who is doing before putting a plant, ultimately it all depends on the number of kilowatt hours plant is able to make during its lifetime. So this technology and this issue is extremely important, and it was quite untouched. EQ has done around 140, 150 webinars ever since the pandemic has hit the mankind, and surprisingly, we didn't touch it. So thank you very much to the industry who has given this idea that this issue is extremely important. So I warmly welcome you all. Before welcoming the speakers, I'll love to introduce myself. I'm Anand Gupta, founder, editor, and CEO of EQ Magazine. So, out of immense love and respect, putting our heart ahead of our brain, we started 12 years ago with a monthly magazine on renewable energy. And we have been publishing in print and digital, the monthly magazine. Then we have the daily e-newsletter. We have a website. The publishing wing, basically, in print and digital, covers everything about solar and other clean tech or renewable energies, including EVs and hydrogen and batteries, etc. And we are covering everything from around the world, be it technology, policy, regulation, interviews, business, finance, markets, etc. And we also have our events division in which we are organizing various kind of conferences, webinars, technical trainings, bioseller meets, product launches, etc. And the events division aims to provide a platform where people like you can come and speak their mind and heart out, and also for businesses to get a platform to connect with each other and grow. So this is it about EQ. Now, it gives me immense pleasure in welcoming a very, very distinguished and a high-level panel. First of all, thank you to Abhay Talwankarji, Chief Growth Officer at Mahindra Teco, for agreeing to join the session and also moderate it. Thank you, sir. Along with him, I warmly welcome Mr. Chaudhary, CEO of AMP Energy, Mr. Atul Pachauri, AVP O2 Power, Mr. Kovid Batra, co-founder Traxo, Mr. Somashekar, MD and CEO, Enerment Technologies, Mr. Prosenjit Chakrabarty, Head of IT Department, Ayana Renewable Power, Mr. Kartikeya Sharma, Head Growth and Strategy, Sunshore Energy, Mr. Dinesh Kanur, AGM Asset Performance from NG Solar, and Mr. Jitendra Batania, Team Leader O&M, Shashwat Clean Tech Private Limited. So, warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And without further ado, I'll hand over to the moderator, Mr. Abhay, to take the session ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, please make maximum use of the chat box for networking Q&A. I urge the speakers to please pay attention to the chat box and try and reply if there are any queries from the audiences. And that's it. I hand over to Mr. Abhay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anand. Very warm welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. It's an exciting topic, like Anand said, and I'm sure all of us have read a lot of reports and researches going around which talk about how digitization has been pushed 10 years ahead in certain industries, in certain cases, on account of this pandemic. I think it's touched us on an everyday affair. I mean, we've moved from buying groceries from the vegetable mandis and started ordering on apps. So I think it's very relevant. SCADA, digitization, automation, there's a lot of things that we intend to cover. A very warm welcome to our esteemed panelists as well, which Anand just introduced, and thanks EQ for organizing this. So the way we planned this session, it's about 2 hours. The way we planned it is we'll have remarks from all of these industry leaders on specific topics. We would then go into a little bit of a Q&A where I have some questions for all of them, and I'll request the audience as well to post their questions in there. and then we'll summarize it towards the end. We do not have any presentations planned today to keep it more engaging and interactive. However, in case there is any Q&A or any need for a presentation, one of us could share our screens depending on what the topic is all about. So that's how we plan the session. Let's keep it engaging and interactive. Without any further ado, I'll request Mr. Chotu Chaudhary from Amp Energy to talk a little about his thoughts on this topic. Just a general hygiene, and request everyone else to please be on mute. It will also be great if you can turn on your video so we can see whether you're falling off to sleep or you're enjoying the session. And anything else, please keep putting it on the chat box. If you have a question which is really urgent, please raise your hands on the Zoom commands and let's get started. So Mr. Chaudhary, are you there with us?
He's just about to join, sir. He's just joining.
No problem. So in order to save time, maybe we can move to our second panelist, Mr. Prasenjit Chakraborty. He's the head of Information Technology Department at Ayana. And Mr. Chakraborty, I'll ask you the first question, which is a broader question on what do you think, as one of the leading developers in India, is the importance of digitization as well as having a technological edge for your company? If you could go ahead, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. Warm welcome and happy new year to everyone. So with the tariff going down to rupees 2 to 1.99 per unit, we should always focus on this technology driven edge. So now at this particular at this particular age, we should always focus on the industry should focus on reduction in the OPEX cost rather than reduction in the OPEX cost rather than thinking about what to do in IT and why to invest more in technology. So we should focus on increase in our yield. Currently, we are gathering lots and lots of data through the SCADA data, and we are junking our cloud storage. But what essentially we need to focus on is good quality of data sets and try to find out a meaningful interpretation out of it, which will help you in predictive analysis, which will help you in maintenance of the assets. We should also focus on the drone system and get the thermographic images and dive deep into the exact root cause of the failure. So we can geotag our assets over there and we can pinpoint the exact losses at the string level. So another big ticket item which most of the people are not following is the forecasting and scheduling. Karnataka and AP, although are the two states which has allowed aggregation and wherein we will be able to see there are very less penalty which is happening in those two states. But if you look around the other states or the CRC ISTS connectivity, therein a normal 50 megawatt plan will have a impact of around 1% in revenue. So which is a big number as far as forecasting and scheduling is concerned. And in this particular scenario where we have gone down to 2 rupees, 1.99 rupees per unit. So people should focus on this forecasting, how to improve our forecasting quality, what are the new technologies which is being taken care of. We should speak with the IMD Department of India. We should speak with NCM RWF, which is the National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting. We should speak with them and try to get more insights out of it so that our forecasting quality should increase as a whole industry. So I think down the line, we'll focus on those particular points, advanced SCADA system, which will help you in predictive analysis. So if you can predict when the losses can be reduced. Now, the only point wherein we can survive as far the industry is concerned, we have to focus on reduction in the OPEX cost and increase in the yield. We have no other choice left out at this particular time period. So by stating this particular thing, we should, I think, Mr. Abhay, you can move it to other panelists, and then we can have a round of discussion on this particular topics.
Sure, Mr. Prasenjit, thank you. Great topics, and I think all of this is highly relevant because all of us agree that at the end of the day, if the capex is kind of fixed, then how do you get better IRRs? I think the best way to do that is if you increase what is coming out of the plant, and that's where you squeeze every dollar, every rupee, every real out of it. So completely agree. And you also mentioned forecasting and scheduling and the impact on DSM. In certain plants, what we have seen, it can be as high as 5 to 10% off the.
Yes.
So
Yes, when the megawatt is reduced, because the accuracy which has been calculated is forecast minus actual divided by my available capacity. So if you have
precisely.
available capacity of 10 megawatt, then automatically the 15% bandwidth is only 1.5, which is highly unpredictable. You can't predict the cloud movement. You can't predict how much deviation you are having. So anything beyond 8.5 is going for a toss. So you have to pay a penalty. And whereas if you go for an ISTS connectivity, then you can't aggregate the things. We have to focus on the CRC regulation stage, that you have to focus on pooling station level. So there also the forecasting is getting for a toss. It's 1 to 1.5% is if you have a huge range of data sets, so that you can train your algorithm, you can train your models, and then you can have a percentage of 1% to 1.5%. But if you are not having that leverage of your megawatts, then you would have around 5% to 10% of your revenue impact, which is a huge impact in today's market.
Very true, very true. And I think a lot of us on the panel, as well as in our audience, would agree and also feel the pain. I also saw one of the comments on the chat which spoke about cloud cover movement. Yes, I think that's going to become a mandate going forward. Cloud cover sensors would become imperative. Great, thank you so much for that introductory chat. I'll move forward to Mr. Somashekar, who's the MD and CEO for NMAN Technologies. So much a question, great to see you again. A question for you. Like we all heard at the beginning itself, that one of the key requirements is to have forecasting and scheduling. How important do you think is the design of an IoT-based system for this kind of a solar PV application? So we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thanks, Abhay, and good evening, good afternoon to everyone. So, Abhay, can I share a couple of slides?
Please feel free.
Okay, so thank you very much. Because I'll just highlight a couple of things which we see in the field. Hold on a moment. Okay, so I represent NMAN, and our experience really comes from the parent company, which is Avi Solar, where we have done several gigawatts of O&M, and we have seen all sorts of problems on the field. I'll just show you a couple of slides. Why we should really monitor. Because I'm glad today there are so many participants here, who have joined the webinar. This wasn't the case 3 years back. Monitoring was the least needed, part of the entire ecosystem of solar PV plants. People just wanted that meter to run, right? So I'll just show some realities here in the field. These are not images taken from Google, but these are the images in which we have done actually the O&M. See, so look at this. So this is not a cyclone. If you can see the images here, it's just another monsoon, and you can see really how the plant looks like, right? It's almost there. The water is actually touching the SMBs. Right. See, look at this. So it's bad crimping, and the cable joints in the fields, they're all causing devastating effects. The scorching heat of, in Andhra Pradesh, we have seen things catching fire here, right? And look at this, the kind of terminations people which have done. Everyone had a deadline to meet, we know that, and look what they were compromised. These are the terminations. And so some of the nightmares for us actually, O&M team, I don't know actually if it's visible out there, you can see some rodents here, a lizard. Right, so these are supposed to be IP66 or 65 grade boxes, combiner boxes, but look, people have actually forgot to put a gland here, and your IP66 is gone for a toss. Right, again, I would say these are actually typical problems in the plants in India. And if you're monitoring the rooftops, look at actually the top of the roof. I'm very sure we cannot climb up there, but look at the situation. The panels are just flying around. So this, I would emphasize that, okay, the last thing is actually on the panels. people have invested a lot of money saying that for the next 25 years, we need not worry. But we have seen the plants which are just 3-4 years old, already you can see cracks and you can see all the snail trails or whatever you call it as. Everything is out there, right? So the reason why we need to have monitoring is all these things what I shown here. This is not something you can depend on actually the technical guy going there actually doing things. You need to have a good monitoring system, right? So second thing is that the losses, what happens actually on a plant. I'm not going to describe the architecture, you all know about it, but why is that the revenues what you expected based on the PV system and PV system analysis, why is it not being achieved? That's because at every point there could be losses, and this has to be analyzed, right? So that's the point I think we will be discussing actually today here. And the question is, if a basic visualization is good enough, I'm very sure a lot of SCADA vendors are out there who can give you the visualization. In this case, a 24-channel combiner box, you definitely know that all of them should be overlapping here, but then when you see there's a difference, you know that actually some channels are down. So the question is this good enough, or you need to have all this advanced analytics? I think that's what actually we'll be talking on in the future. So overall, what I feel is we need to move into the mindset of IoT. What it really means is, our plants has to be feature ready. Data is everything. As of now, the focus on SCADA has been most of the plants, the way we see it, it's all PLC based SCADA system. And the way remotely you can monitor is only through some lease line that is actually using static IP or actually some other means wherein the data is all collected into the MCR, and actually then it is moved to a cloud, or actually you monitor from a remote station. So my suggestion is, or actually our experience says, that we need to really switch to IoT. And we will talk in detail because there are a lot of experts. I don't want to steal everyone's time here. We'll talk about that, what a real IoT is. Is it like, bringing all the data at one point, or do we have a distributed architecture wherein from each equipment we can push the data to the cloud? And once the data is out there, once the quality data is out there, I'll talk about it later, what data really means. Once the data is there, I think we can do a lot of analysis and tell the decisions to the owners, or actually the O&M manager sitting there, pointing out the exact problems in the field. That's what a good SCADA system would do. So over to you, Abhay. I think let's listen to all others and then probably continue the discussion.
Thanks, Soma. Thanks for the PPT. I think those pictures are definitely not figments of imaginations like most serials start with. Those are real cases, we're sure of it. I think I'll take forward from the point that you mentioned that, you said IoT is the way forward. And we have with us Mr. Atul Pachauri, who's the AVP at O2 Power, and he is considered to be a specialist in SCADA as well as O&M. So Mr. Pachauri, would love to hear your thoughts on SCADA or remote monitoring using IoT versus PLC. What are your thoughts on this?
Right. So first of all, I would like to thank you to give me the opportunity, and special thanks to EQ for making this most important topic live. So I'm sure that many of our participants are listening to us, and definitely this will make an impact, I'm sure. So I would like to stretch upon the topic which is very much favorite nowadays, of remote monitoring. As you also mentioned that how to do with the conventional SCADA systems, where we are using the PLC based controllers and the conventional SCADA systems which are especially designed for the earlier thermal power plants or maybe hydropower plants. And nowadays, this is a need, what Mr. Somashekhar have also highlighted, that this is a need when we have to gather the quality data. Now, when we have to gather the quality data, I'm sure we cannot gather it at site, right? So we have to reach some central level where all the data is coming, because all alone a site data will not put us much description about the things. At least 2, 3, 4 or maybe multiple sites, when all the data is coming to a central location, then only we will be able to analyze anything apart, right? So IoT is required, yes. And then the SCADA advanced functionalities, yes, they are required. As Mr. Banerjee already told that there is a price crunch and the prices, the electricity price are coming lower and lower day by day. Where it will stop, I don't know, but yes, they are coming lower. So capex as well as opex, they need to be optimized very, very much. They can be optimized, yes, up to how much extent that we need to try, but yes, they need to be optimized. And how they will be optimized, there is a simple answer for both the things, is the digitization. So we have to keep our things digital as soon as maximum as possible. And this is a good thing that we all are discussing about all these things today, because earlier, as Somashekar also mentioned, that earlier nobody was even thinking about making the good SCADA also at site. Nowadays people are more focused on that. This is very good thing. Important also on the same side to maintain the grid quality also, because we cannot think about us only, we have to think about grid also at the same time. Because when we are feeding P power into the grid without the quality, then it is of no use. It will disturb the grid only. Fine. We have to maintain the quality of power by maintaining the reactive power as well as the voltage at the same time. Right. So we have to put SCADA systems or the power plant controllers in such a manner in the plant that they are maintaining the power quality, because the renewable energy component of the grid is increasing day by day. So we are becoming heavier and heavier now from the conventional power plant. So it is now our duty to maintain the power quality at the same time. And all these are achievable through the digitization only. We'll discuss more about this.
Great, Mr. Pachauri. I think what you just mentioned could become the mantra for our industry, which is go more and more digital every day. Completely agree with you. And I think you also touched upon the extent of renewable energy penetration into the grid, which actually makes a lot of inverter control, power plant controllers very pertinent. So those are also great points which we should definitely touch upon. I'll next go to Kovind Batra from Traxo. He's a co-founder there. Since we're talking a lot about IoT, Traxo is one of the companies similar to Enaman or Teco, which offers IoT-based solutions. So, Kovind, would love to know your thoughts on, how does an IPP go ahead and design a system which is IoT-based, and what are your recommendations?
Hi, Abhay. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank EQ for organizing this event. And all the people who are here, I think amongst the speakers, we have all those people who are experienced more than 10 to 12 years in the industry. And what Somashekar ji has touched upon, Mr. Chaudhary has touched upon, I think those are the very relevant points which the industry needs to address right now. And I personally has been working in this industry from last 3 years, and what I have realized is that there is definitely a need of this digitization, but there are a lot of barriers that we have to come across while moving to this digitization. Cost, of course, is one big factor because of which we need to go for digitization, but at the same time, it becomes a barrier also to put in investment to the digital assets in the beginning. So from there also the first barrier comes in. And the second thing that I feel which becomes a challenge is the overall ecosystem, where the awareness about the technology, awareness about this skill set in itself is lacking. I mean, it could be a personal point of view also, but after talking to a lot of people, a lot of companies that are there in the industry, I have realized that even though people know that there is a need for this thing, but because there is not enough expertise and knowledge around what quality they should demand for, what kind of product and services they should look out for in such tools, is also a very big challenge. So with this, I would like to talk more on the need of the monitoring system and what all problems it can address, so that we can build a mindset into the people that why we actually need these monitoring systems. And to answer your question, Abhay, I think I deviated from what you asked and what I was just mentioning, because I was a little prepared on the need part. But to answer your question, I think the best possible way to design for an IPP or for a developer or for a O&M company to have a monitoring system in place, I think there are two key components to the system. One is the hardware and another one is the software. one should not look at it as one entity. Both of these things have their own applications, have their own implications when they are implemented. So both the things should be taken care individually. When we talk about the hardware part, it definitely requires a good understanding of the equipment layout of the site, wherein we have to understand how equipments and assets are being installed at the site. And based on that analysis, we can recommend a good hardware system that needs to be installed. When I say hardware, it typically means a data acquisition and a data logging system. And then post that, when you are looking at a software, then you have to go into a completely different world there. So there is a lot of more detail I would like to talk upon, but I think there are other people also. So let everybody speak their mindset and point of view about the industry, and we'll definitely touch on these points also.
Sure, Covid. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on what an IPP needs to do. And I agree, there's quite a lot that we can do, even in selection of which data logger to use or whether it should have a TPM chip or not. I think those are very relevant decisions for us to take at a design stage. And thanks for highlighting that. I also, compliment the fact that Traxo in the last 3 years has done a great job, and I think it's good to have young faces as well within this panel. So thanks a lot, Rohit, for that.
Thank you, Abhay. Thank you so much.
Great. So I'll move forward to Mr. Kartikeya Narayan Sharma, who is head of growth and strategy at Sunshore Energy, which is primarily focused on rooftop EPC, and I think you're the second largest in India. We heard some moments ago Mr. Pachauri talking about data coming in centrally, and we also heard Soma talking about data moving centrally, and would love to understand from you when you're doing rooftop EPC and you talk about scalability and flexibility as the key aspects of a solar scale-up project. What are your thoughts around it? How do you define scalability and flexibility? And would love to hear your thoughts, Kartikeya.
Right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Abhay. And thanks a lot, Anand, for organizing this seminar. I think we are hearing some very, very interesting views from a great panel today. And I'm glad that this is a 2-hour session, because I think this will give us the opportunity to really get into things and understand them well. And thank you for all the participants who are here. I believe that all of you all are going to go back with a lot of value addition from this webinar. So I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Kartikeya Sharma. I'm one of the co-founders at Sunshore Energy. We are a primarily commercial and industrial segment focused solar power company. We have a 50-50 split between open access and and rooftop solar plants. And our cumulative portfolio is somewhere around 100 megawatts. And we've worked across the country, around 15, 16 states. We have our portfolio. We currently have around 80 megawatts under asset management. So we generally do asset management for all the plants that we set up. And we are slowly also, growing into outsourcing, acting as a O&M service provider, asset management service provider, in fact, to a lot of leading developers in the country. Now, I think scalability and flexibility is a very, very important thing when you're working in the commercial and industrial segment in India. Whether you're putting up a rooftop plant, basically behind the meter plant, or you're putting up an open access plant. Everywhere, the regulations are so dynamic in the country. The monitoring system really acts like the heart of your solar power plant, right? Which is, in our case, we are looking at plants with an average size of around 500 kilowatts. We are generating north of 10,000-15,000 rupees worth of energy every day for our customers, right? So what I'm just going to take 2 minutes. I just have one slide which I created just so that it would be easier for everybody to follow. I hope everybody can see my screen. Abhay,
Yes,
my screen. So I believe that when I talk about scalability and flexibility in SCADA systems, I am talking about 3 primary aspects of the SCADA system, which where we need these 2 features to be in place. And here I have created a quick list, right, of things that I believe add to the scalability and flexibility aspect of the SCADA system. So typically for us, when we look at a SCADA system, one is what are the number of devices which are connected to the actual monitoring system, right? These days, in fact, for us, we don't use any PLC-based system anywhere, right? So we generally use a microprocessor architecture, wherein microprocessor-based architecture, which basically connects very quickly and generally comes pre-configured or is configured very, very quickly on site, right? And that too by remotely, downloading the pre-configured, files into the hardware that we install. So number one comes connected devices, right? Of course, we all connect active power devices in all our rooftop solar plants and ground-mounted plants. But over time, we believe that more and more supplementary power equipments also need to be added to the SCADA system. For example, in UP, since the net metering is not there, all the plants that have come up in the last 2 years are grid synchronized, right? In a certain factory where there was a big UPS, we also synchronized the solar power plant with the UPS, right? Again, we had to use a separate SCADA system. So I believe that, when it comes to hardware, the number of connected devices using the SCADA system, be very, very aware and always keep space for being able to add more devices onto the system. It's very important, and it's a lot of trouble when you have to change your entire SCADA system just because you need to upgrade and connect a few more devices, right? In the future, we believe that solar monitoring systems will also become systems for actual energy users to look at how much energy they are using where. In fact, we are already piloting this in a few of our projects with some of our flagship customers. Next comes the control and synchronizing functionality, right? So while we are already doing DG synchronization with inverters, like I said, in UP, we are also doing grid synchronization. I believe that in ground-mounted plants, the day is not far when you would actually be wanting to do or willing to do. I'm sure a lot of asset managers would already want to do a scheduling-based inverter control, right? Wherein once you've given a schedule, you want to sometimes just shave off certain peaks from inverter generations through the microcontroller view, through the microcontroller way, right? Instead of using a battery, because the battery is still going to be more expensive. So I think that as scheduling norms become more and more stringent, we would want to use scheduling-based control of our inverters, right? And of course, reactive power control, sir, already, the part of the panel has already spoken about this, but I believe it is going to be a very, very important functionality for SCADA systems, especially for ground-mounted plants, right? And then last, and the most important is the user interface and reporting part of the SCADA system, wherein I believe that today, basic CMMS task management features to store basic metadata of the solar power plants, apart from real-time monitoring, have become essential features, right? There's no way that, we are going to go for any monitoring system which does not allow us to, at least control the alerts or configure the alerts that we want to receive. Not automate or beyond automating, in fact, we would want to customize the reporting that we send. So these are the three aspects that, we look at in a SCADA system when we are choosing it. And scalability and flexibility really forms the backbone of our decision when we go out to choose a SCADA system. So this is my 2 cents on why I believe that scalability and flexibility should be top of the mind for SCADA monitoring system providers and users. Over to you, Abhay.
Thanks, Karthika. Great slide. I think really well bucketed and bullet pointed for people who are probably just getting into it. It's a very good summary that you made. An interesting thing that I noted is at the bottom of the third box, you said an OS-like experience. I was just wondering if it is inspired by Teku OS because that is the name of our CMMS, but great to see the word OS and very well structured in terms of what you said. And I think one of the problems that we see in the existing portfolios for a lot of IPPs is having multiple SCADA operators, multiple login IDs, and we heard about centralizing of the data and having something which is like a network operations center or a central monitoring solution. And when you want to do that, how do you ensure that you don't need to redo the wiring or the installation? So great points on both scalability as well as control. I just want to tell the audience that there are some questions coming in. Please don't worry, we're not ignoring them. We'll take it as soon as the opening comments are done. And we're trying to note it. There are some other comments also which are coming in, so it's a little difficult to filter the actual questions, but please be rest assured, Jitesh and team are helping us with getting all the questions, and we'll definitely address it. Thanks a lot, Kartikeya. I'll move ahead to Mr. Dinesh Kannur from NG Solar, and my question for him is in terms of the need for remote monitoring and how do you do it at NG, and what is it that you do in terms of advanced SCADA functionality so that our audience can get enlightened.
Hi, Abhay. Good evening, all, and I'm thankful to EQ for giving us this opportunity to share our experiences in the field of SCADA as well. So, to start with, I will just brief a small introduction about myself and company. I'm Dinesh. I'm representing the asset performance department of my company, NG. NG is a global leader in IPP section and having approximately 31 gigawatt of renewable assets working on ground. And as far as India is concerned, we have approximately 800 megawatt on ground, as well as approximately 180 megawatt wind portfolio in Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. Very soon we will be commissioning one more 300 megawatt project in Gujarat. So totaling to approximately 1 gigawatt solar portfolio in India. So why I'm explaining these are bigger numbers of capacities, because as you are aware, these bigger plants, we have portfolio of 5 megawatt as well as we have portfolio of 350 megawatt at one location. We are using multiple devices, 1 megawatt central inverter, along with a 90 kilowatt Huawei, approximately 2,800 numbers of inverters installed at one location. So being a IPP company and to monitor our plants, it's very difficult for management to have a collective representation of the asset performance at one place. It is very much important to collect all our SCADA data at one location, right? And the purpose of this collecting data is not just to process the reports and demonstrate the revenues. The purpose has to be like that. It has to be first, the plants has to be monitored by a qualified persons. Again, the data analysis has to be done at one location, and then the representation or outcomes of the data has to be conveyed to the site for fixing the issues. We all are talking about the tariff crunch and operating the margins that we have. But instead, my personal view is that instead focusing that part, we should focus on increasing our generation, increasing our revenue by fixing our issues in the plants. So it is very much important for all of us to collect a data, analyze it, and use the recent advancement in the sector of data science by using advanced algorithms. We should try to develop models or kind of programs. Those can be used to formulate the normality modules, and any kind of deviation we found during that normality modules of any particular equipment, then we have to look into the problem of that particular equipment. So these are some things I will be happy to talk more about this topic, but I will again try to touch another points of the bigger portfolio IPP players, in which the recent requirement of the industry is that scheduling and forecasting, and even if you go a percent out of your band, then you will be have dent in your revenues. So having a data analysis, competent data analysis team in-house at our central location, it will reduce your burden at site to give more attention to their preventive maintenance plan rather than qualitative analysis at site. So if you have a prudent manpower at site and a supportive manpower at central office, it is very good combination that if suppose particular section of the plant is deviating in terms of generation,
then you will have to fix up the issues. There may be n number of issues not related to losses, but it can be related to the health of the equipment. So collecting a specific data from the equipment in terms of their performance, temperatures, efficiencies, everything, that has to be properly reported in your data center, has to be analyzed by advanced algorithms. And again, those data can be false data or maybe some mistakes in that. Then that has to be normalized for the issues like curtailment, for non-technical issues created by local things. Then it can also show some deviation in your analysis. So normalization by using advanced techniques is very much important. My first more point is that whatever kind of data or SCADA type we are using, maybe PLC or maybe IoT, the purpose of data collection has to be addressed and has to be properly analyzed. This will help us to increase our revenues and thereby optimizing our revenue cost. So I will be happy to share more views if things or questions comes in further. So for now, I will request.
Thank you, Dinesh, for those insights. And I hear something which is a question I saw in the chat, and hence I'm relating to what the question talks about. It talks about central monitoring through AI and ML. And here you rightly mentioned about the role of specialists sitting at a central location and monitoring this data. So that's something that we will keep as a little bit of a debate for later, but that is going to be something that is a transition, I believe. But thanks for bringing that point up. And with that, I'll move to Mr. Jitendra Batania from Shashwat Cleantech. He takes care of O&M Solar. So, Mr. Jitendra, what are your thoughts in terms of what are the challenges that you face when it comes to SCADA or monitoring? Basis your experience on the O&M side.
Hello, good evening to all of you, sir.
Good evening.
Actually, हम लोग ने जो ग्राउंड लेवल पे ग्राउंड वांटेड हमारे जो प्लांट इंस्टॉलेट हैं, और इसमें मोस्टली 3 टाइप से हमें कुछ इश्यूज जो फेस अभी किए हैं, जैसे कि पोर्टल के रिगार्डिंग में अगर बात करूं तो जैसा कि फर्स्ट वन, स्ट्रिंग वाइज डेटा जो मिलना चाहिए वो मुझे जैसे कि अभी मैं नहीं फेच कर पा रहा हूँ, और प्रॉपर जो उसकी वजह से जो मॉनिटरिंग में मुझे जो इनकन्वीनियंस जैसे कि हो रहा है कि जैसे
तो जैसे जितेंद्र जी आप बोल रहे हैं कि कभी-कभी ऐसा हो रहा है कि डेटा फेच नहीं हो पा रहा है, है ना, जो आप बात कर रहे थे, तो वहां पे आपके हिसाब से ये डेटा फेच नहीं हो पाता है, जनरली क्या रीजंस हो सकते हैं? क्योंकि एज वी ऑल अंडरस्टैंड हो सकता है नेटवर्क का इशू हो या पता नहीं, तो आपके हिसाब से क्या, व्हाट डू यू थिंक?
नेटवर्क इशू नहीं, जैसे कि पोर्टल पे ही सपोज मैं देखना चाहूँ कि पोर्टल पे मुझे अगर मॉनिटरिंग करना है और मैं चाहता हूँ कि स्ट्रिंग वाइज मुझे डेटा मिले, सपोज अगर कोई फॉल्ट में है या फिर कुछ इश्यूज में है तो मैं फाइंड आउट कर सकूँ, तो एक उसके लिए
ग्रेट। आई थिंक आपने जो बताया है दैट इज अ वेरी पर्टिनेंट पॉइंट जितेंद्र जी, की डेटा का सैंक्टिटी और डेटा का वैलिडिटी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। मतलब आपका स्काडा भले मतलब बड़े ब्रांड का हो, दिखने में अच्छा हो, बट अगर डेटा नहीं आता सही से तो फिर आपके लिए कोई वैल्यू नहीं है। आई कैन टेक दैट अवे। सो वेरी वेरी वेल सेड। आई थिंक एट द कोर ऑफ योर मैसेज यू आर जस्ट सेइंग कि सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि डेटा रिलायबल हो, एंड आई थिंक यू स्पोकन from your heart, and thanks a lot for sharing that pain point. And maybe we will also touch upon what are the possible reasons why this happens, and what can we do as IPPs, as O&M players, as software providers to address these challenges. So I think we've run through all the panel and heard their initial views. I'll just make another quick call to Mr. Chotu Chaudhary in case you've joined. would you like to say something? Okay, all right. I'll move ahead then, and I just wanted to tell everyone that we had just touched a peak of 203 attendees on this webinar, and I also saw one input from one Mr. Ashok who said this is the highest number of participants that we've seen in the last 3 months. So compliments to all of you and sharing all of your thoughts. I just want to summarize the opening remarks and then we'll move to a few of the questions that we've seen on the chat. Couple of things that we heard from our panelists, and I'll add my 2 cents as well very quickly. Couple of things is the industry today has mainly 3 options in terms of SCADA. We heard about legacy solutions or PLC based solutions, which was spoken about. We also heard about embedded box PC based solutions, which are being used. And the third one, which is, the buzz or the in thing today, which is the IoT based systems. So these are the 3 key ways in which SCADAs are getting as of today. The other point which we heard clearly from 1 or 2 of our panelists was how important data is, and Mr. Soma talked about the definition of data. What is data? Similarly, we heard the same thing from Jitendra, that data is very important. We also heard a lot how data being only at site doesn't make sense. It has to come into a central place. We also spoke about how machine learning and artificial intelligence can be deployed on this data to really extract intelligence and insights. We heard some of the pain points a little here and there, but mainly what Kartikeya spoke about was the need for it to be scalable. As you scale your portfolio, as you scale the number of sites, it is important for you to have SCADA which are interoperable, where hardware doesn't become a constraint. And also, we spoke about central monitoring solutions, and one of the last topics that we did discuss a lot was forecasting and scheduling, and how it has a huge impact on our revenue. So those are the key topics that we discussed in our opening remarks. And just to summarize, I'll share my screen a little and take you through 2-3 things, because there are, as an introduction, I'm not going to take you through the entire presentation, but just to set a little bit of context and for the larger benefit of the audience. So we heard SCADA a lot. So for those who are thinking, what does SCADA mean? It is nothing but supervisory control and data acquisition. How does SCADA help you? The 3 points in orange are the key points where they actually directly benefit you. Typically to increase your plant uptime, to reduce your O&M cost, and also to keep your plant safe. We saw the pictures at the O&M sites. It's risky to have a fire hazard or an electrocution at your plant. So that's the basic need of a SCADA. And just to give you a context of a small plant in today's context, a 20 megawatt plant, this is the kind of data that is generated. This is the number of modules that typically you would see installed at your plant. And physically monitoring it with possibly a notepad and a notebook and a pen and going to inverters and taking readings may not help your case. So remote monitoring and control is more than critical for solar PV plants. Going ahead, some of the challenges which could be there in terms of the Indian industry, the lack of awareness, which I think webinars like the one we are seeing today, we are seeing increasing knowledge on the topic of SCADA, of remote monitoring. Apart from that, India is also seeing, with 40 gigawatt installed, we are seeing some complexity in retrofits, lack of support, dependency on incumbent hardware, scalability and portfolio management, which was discussed by a lot of our panelists, limitation of third-party integration. So if you want to have a control, like Kartikeya spoke about, or add a new device, data loss, which Jitendra spoke about, and can this be handheld ready? I am not doing a marketing pitch, so I'm not going to go into those slides, but typical architecture for any SCADA operator would typically look like this, where you would have devices which are then connected to a data logger. It could have built-in security or not, and then gets pushed to the internet. It could be through SIM cards, 2G, 3G, 4G. It could be through WLAN. It could be through an Ethernet. It could be any of those. And then it can be shown to your clients. This is how a typical rooftop would look like. If we go to a larger scale plant, this is how the configuration changes. Now, what's interesting is if you were to use a PLC-based SCADA or a box PCU SCADA, all of your inverter control room typically would have controls, kind of limited to those rooms, and then it's aggregated and pushed onto a server. The difference in IoT would be you would have IoT data loggers within these inverter rooms, which then push the data directly, right? So you don't need to aggregate data. And then you could have a firewall and you could have multiple screens which look at it. Just ignore the brand names for now, but what this slide basically shows is you have 4 types of automation or software suites in general in the industry. You would have the IoT or PLC based SCADA systems, which is what pushes the data from the device. Then you would have a central monitoring station, which actually aggregates all the data in one place. You would have something for maintenance management or CMMS, like they say, and you would have something for advanced analytics. So, just to give you a broad picture on what we're talking about today, to summarize our opening session, to have more questions around this so that our panelists can from there. I'll move back to the Q&A and the questions that we've received. Mr. Gopal Sovani had asked a question: what's the standard technical specification for a SCADA? I would love to invite Shekhar or COVID to answer this question, which is, what can be defined as a standard technical specification for a SCADA?
Thanks, Abhay. So I would say the specification here is kind of loosely held. There is an actually IEC specification which talks about at what data or actually at what time intervals you need to acquire the data and some storage methodologies. I wouldn't say there is we do not have a very solid spec. Of course, when we are pushing to the SLD side, there it becomes there are some standards like you have to use an IEC 104 equivalent hardware at the switch yard to really push the data to SLDC. So there are actually some specs when it gets to the transmission line side, but inside the plant, from our knowledge, we don't have an very solid spec defined. Of course, for very large power plants, we go by the tender specs, the RFQs launched by the developers. So that has got really, now I would say it in cut and paste. These days, it is getting more and more confused because they are using PLC, IoT, all mixed together. So for a larger plants, we go by the specs or actually the RFQ, which has been defined there. So that's my take, Abhay.
Thanks a lot, Soma. And that is very useful. COVID, would you like to add anything there?
I'll have to ask you the question again.
Okay. No, so basically, Somani had asked a question on what could be defined as a standard technical specification for SCADA or remote monitoring.
Technical specification for SCADA. I'm sorry, I would not be the right person to answer this because we generally do not.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay.
No problem. So I'll just add. Sorry, Mr. Prasanjit, please go ahead.
Yeah, so can I put some light onto it?
Please.
So what I believe is the normal SCADA system or the advanced SCADA system should focus on a couple of things. One is theoretical versus expected versus actual generation and revenue. That's the primary thing which we should focus on. The second point would be the loss bucketing. So I have a expected generation and I have my actual generation. So the difference between my expected and the actual generation should be bucketed into different losses, whether it's my inverter loss, whether it's my soiling losses, whether it's my transformer losses, whatever losses we are we are having. So those losses should be bucketed. Then the loss distribution across inverters and SMBs. Then the analyzing of the soiling losses without having to install any hardware at site. So those things should be there in my advanced SCADA system, so that my analysis, my IV curve testing, my drone thermography, those system needs to be enhanced, so that my SCADA system is fully digitized, so that I need not to move to any other third-party solution to have my monitoring or have my analysis done in the plant. And the most effective another module which would all the SCADA system should incorporate is my predictive algorithms, through which if I have say around 1 year or 2 years data sets, and I can predict my failure of any of my components of the assets, that would help bringing this losses into a huge extent.
Perfect. Thanks a lot.
May I take the answer?
Yes, Mr. Bajaj, please.
Okay. So actually, what Mr. Somani sir is trying to ask here is very simply, he is searching for a competent stakeholder who can take care of SCADA system, the warranty of the SCADA system, PPC, as well as the scheduling and forecasting, all in one package. So he do not have any RFQ for that. So he is asking from an open forum that if any of the supplier or specifically vendor is available here, he can contact to Mr. Somani directly and provide him the technical offer, including all these things. That's it.
Correct, Mr. Pachauri. Thank you for rephrasing it. Just for kind of summarizing the answer, I think a couple of things that Mr. Prasadjit said is an expectation from an advanced SCADA, which has loss diagrams, which has integration of drones, etc. But at a very basic level, it should comply to IC 61724, which are the monitoring norms. If it is integrating with a grid, it should comply to IC 101, 104, later on IC 61850. It should have logging of data, it should have alarms, it should have events, and it should have reporting facility. And whatever parameters you're able to fetch from your equipment, you should be able to see it on your screen and fetch it into a report. So I'm just dumbing it down a lot, but essentially this is what a SCADA should give to you. However, like Mr. Pachauri said, I'm sure a few of us would probably reach out to you post the session and share with you what would be a standard technical specification. There was another question from Mr. Valmik on what is the difference between IoT and PLC? And learning from my previous question, I would rather open the forum to the panelists and ask if anyone else would like to answer this question. So the question from Valmik is, what's the difference between IoT and PLC solutions? Anyone would like to go for it?
Yes, I can.
Sure.
So Mr. Balmik Suryavanshi actually is coming from a background where he have developed the PLCs which are IoT enabled. Okay, so actually there is no vast difference nowadays lying between the IoT and the PLC. IoT is just a technique by which the controllers or the microprocessors or the PLCs are directly integrated with internet. We can say it as in a broad view internet. That's it. So yes, so in nowadays the PLCs are available from all the manufacturers, most of them, although they are costly affair, but yes, they are available in the market. The controllers are controllers, very good embedded controllers. PLCs are also doing the equal work, but yes, IoT is not making much difference. It is just the technology which we are adopting nowadays.
Any other panel member who would like to add their views?
So I would like to talk about another thing which the industry is yet to see. It's we are not really talking about a true IoT. What do you really mean by IoT? So say actually your house is IoT enabled, which means people are thinking of your refrigerator, your lighting module, or everything just directly talks to the internet. That is the basic definition of IoT. This is not being incorporated to the solar PV. So if I'll put it this way, true IoT means each inverter, each combiner box will have a chip, and the day is not very far wherein you will have the chips which would directly talk to the satellites, and even you don't have to depend on the your network service providers to have the internet. I think that is where the industry has to move out, and that time this PLC has to phase out. PLC doesn't have that capability. We are talking about simple, small matchbox size boxes, which is stuck to the inverter or the combiner box or the transformer, and you will have all the data at the cloud. I think this is where the industry, I feel should move, and is going to actually happen shortly.
Great. So I think those are great points, Mr. Soma and Mr. Atul. I think from my perspective, the key difference between an IoT and a PLC-based SCADA would be, in a PLC SCADA, you typically would need some sort of ladder logic, PLC programming, which needs to go in. Also, typically for acquiring a PLC, there is a fixed cost, and for plants which are, let's say, 10 megawatt and beyond, it makes a lot of sense. For plants which are probably much smaller, it may not make sense in terms of investing in a PLC. The other thing is, typically when you're creating some changes to your plants or you're adding a few things, if you are an IoT-enabled SCADA, you could possibly just add a new inverter room and install an IoT data logger, and it could be configurable plug and play, like we heard Mr. Karthikeya speak about earlier. But if it is PLC, you would need the OEM to come in and support you on configuration of those devices. The last differentiation that I would like to add is in terms of cybersecurity, where a PLC typically would not have inbuilt cybersecurity options, but rather you would have a firewall, at the injection point or the server level, whereas a data logger or an IoT data logger could actually have an integrated TPM chip, which could give you a very secure network. So just adding on and building on to what Mr. Atul and Mr. Soma said. So in fact, if you go and Google the differences between PLC, there are a lot of topics which talk about will IoT replace legacy SCADA, but I think the consensus in the industry is IoT will supplement legacy SCADA, IoT will empower legacy SCADA, and I think they will coexist. So with that, I'll move to the next question. There's a question which had come in, I forget the gentleman's name, I'm sorry about that, but the question was on what are the PPC requirements in India? Any of my fellow panelists would like to take that question, please? Okay, no problem. So I'll quickly cover that, and would love for any of you to chip in. So basically, a PPC or a power plant controller is a requirement from the Government of India under the Central Electricity Authority Act, which tells us that at the point of injection for any plant which is more than 10 megawatt installed after 2019, you should have some sort of an active power injection control, and this will be as per the directions of the load dispatch center. So typically you would have controls on the active power, you would have controls on the frequency variation, you would have controls on the rate of change or the ramp rate, as they say. You would also need to control the reactive power and power factor. So these are some of the things that typically a PPC would be required to adhere. For the older plants, it is not compulsory as of now to implement it on all the plants, but for any new plant that you're investing in, as an advisory, we would recommend that you get the PPC installed. The linkage is basically with what Mr. Pachauri was saying earlier, which is with the increasing RE penetration into the grid, the need for managing the solar injection or the wind injection into the grid is really important, and which is where the need for a PPC. So that's how I'd like to answer that question. And if any of my esteemed panelists would like to chip in on the PPC requirements, please.
I'd like to again emphasize upon, don't think only about us, think about the grid also. So okay, so then only the requirement of PPC came into picture, because earlier we were very smaller in quantity. So everybody was saying, okay, fine, the thermals and the hydro will manage the reactive power or the voltages. Frequency, obviously, they will only manage, but yes, active power or reactive power and voltage, we also have to contribute. Now, both the things comes into picture, the quality as well as the quantity. Fine. So quantity, whatever is our agreement, we need not to feed beyond that. So active power curtailment, and now we have to manage the voltage as well as the reactive power. There comes the reactive power Q. These are only the two basic requirements which grid, CEA or POSOCO is asking from every solar power developer.
Yes.
Right now it is a compulsion for the new power plants. Now day is not very far away when they will be asking for each and every solar power plant or a wind power plant which is installed across the India to install a power plant controller, and that should be connected to the respective load dispatch center or a central control center, so that they can centrally manage, schedule their own power when they are feeding to their end customers. So please be ready.
Very well said, Mr. Pachauri. I think Dinesh, you had a point. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I would also like to support Mr. Atul. We are in a scenario where multiple multi-megawatt level developers are developing the solar parks, and at a peak time, everybody is generating at their peak capacity. And if suppose out of a sudden some cloud passing happens and there is a drop in the frequency, then it has to be supported and the necessary protections to be provided to the installed the power transformers and switch gears there. So it is very much required that a bigger capacity plant has to have a power plant controller, and it's the prime and the most important reason having PPC is a grid stability. So we may not end up with the damaging our substations. So that is my point of view.
Perfect. Very true, and I think all of us would agree without a doubt. I'll move to the next point that I read in the chat. It says, it's from Vidyadhar. It says, how SCADA will help us in terms of predictive analytics with vast data. So I'll open it again to the panel and ask them to share their thoughts on this.
Okay, I think Abhay, if I can take it.
Yeah.
All right. Predictive analytics. So of course, when I say predictive analytics, it's more of actually looking into the future based on the past data. So you need to have the data. Now, unlike wind, in solar PV, I would say the equipments are not that complex, definitely combined to a turbine, which has got moving parts. So wherein people have sensors, they measure the wear and tear. Based on that, they do some predictions on actually when possibly would the equipment go down. People really want to know when actually that should happen. But in solar, the question is, can you tell when my fuse is going to fail? Can you really say actually when the cable is going to cut? I think that's a bit tricky here. However, there is something called as the performance parameters of these inverters, or the degradation of solar PV plants. The PV panels. I think these are some things. If you have good historic data, you can do a trend analysis. You can look into this massive sum of data as you compare to the weather parameters and how the output is coming, and year on year, if you start analyzing and see that actually things are really moving south. Based on this, there are actually models being created which can then alert you that now the degradation losses are actually really going haywire. It is not actually what your panel manufacturers committed. It is actually much worse on that. So I think predictive analytics, since it's based on data, having a good SCADA system and you having good data pointers, you can really, bring out some, I would say actually great decisions in terms of actually where your power plant is really heading. So it can be done, and the SCADA is very important. Is actually, how I would like to summarize it as Abhay.
Great, Soma. I build on what you said, Mr. Prasanjit. I think you have a point. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I would also like to say that unlike so he was mentioning about wind. So wind, we have a lot of components. Say my gearbox oil temperature, my generator temperature, my nacelle temperature, my ambient temperature. So all those tags we can take it through OPC, Modbus, whatever protocol you want. So if we analyze those data, so before the failure of any of the components, if you analyze maybe say 3 months or 4 months of data, you will have a clear cut algorithms which you can find it. And next time, if you have similar type of algorithms or similar type of trend which is being followed, you can predict that this particular components may fail. And we have seen in certain prognosis or certain predictive analysis that we have been able to forecast, say around 95% of the time we were correct. Seeing that particular trend, we can see that my generator or my gearbox may fail. So as not like solar, if wind, we lose a certain period of time wherein my high wind season is very, very less a time period. So it's a huge impact on my revenue, which is not there in case of solar, but still we should always focus on my improvement on my components, which should not fail at any point of time. And if you can predict that, that's a benefit to the industry as a whole.
Mr. Dinesh, you have another point to add here?
Yes. So Abhay, I would like to just add up or top up my point on whatever Prasenjit and Mr. Soma has covered. As rightly said, Mr. Soma, that solar PV plants are not that too complicated as a wind. But even if we can use a data generated by SCADA just to analyze or to monitor, to change the cleaning cycles, this is a simple way we can say. If we can able to predict that, generally what O&M operators do have their certain cycles of the cleaning, and they clean first zone number 1 and zone number 2 and zone number 3. But if you can smartly analyze the data that zone number 2 needs prioritized for the cleaning than zone number 3, or maybe a further any kind of traffic movement around the plant, or maybe a wind gust blowing through particular section of the plant, that may generate a need of cleaning of that particular section prior to its scheduled date. So this can be a simple technique, or you can even say the predictive analysis you do that this particular section may need a prioritization for the terms of cleaning. See, the simple way I'm talking about, not going into detail more, as I do support the statement of Mr. Soma and Prasenjit. But the simple way to address the question of Mr. Sau is to generate a small things from the data. You should learn to analyze the data of this SCADA. That's my point.
Very true.
Correct. Perfect. So thank you, Mr. Dinesh and Mr. Prasenjit, to add on to it. How I would probably add on to this is, when we talk about predictive analytics, we can bucket it, right? So I think we heard a lot about failure prediction. So in terms of predicting the number one best talked about use case you would see in any industry, whether it's aviation, wind, solar, thermal, or even automobile, everyone talks about failure prediction. So the biggest advantage you draw out of it is there a way that you can avoid an accident or a breakdown, and hence ensuring 100% uptime, or if it was possible to have zero downtime. The second bucket is, again, what we heard on the panel again was the weather forecasting, right? Predicting the weather. So in case you are going to have low wind periods, or you are going to have low sunshine days, probably you can take a shutdown in advance and then carry out your maintenance, and hence reducing the loss that you make. The third or possible kind of prediction that is being done today is in terms of the loss prediction. So what are the kind of losses that your system is making today vis-a-vis what it will make every year, as against what you had initially planned in your financial model. So just touching upon some of the use cases which are already out there in the market, and I'm sure you can do a little bit of more research on which are the companies which offer those solutions. But these are the typical use cases which are being spoken about. I'll quickly go forward to the next question, which is from Girish, which talks about, can a fire incident be prevented by a SCADA? So I'll leave this question open on the panel for anyone to answer.
Okay, if there are no takers, so so Abhay, stop me if actually you want to give a chance to anybody. But I just
Uma, I can help you out over here.
yeah, go ahead, Karthik.
I realize I've been sitting quiet for a bit. There are such great answers as it is. So I think fire incidents. See again, the scale of the fire incident matters, right? And the location matters. So, for example, if you're talking about a ground-mounted plant versus whether you're talking about a rooftop behind the meter plant, those are two widely different contexts. In cases of industrial solar plants, I think definitely, having a fire alarm system in place is very, very important. Not only an alarm system, it is more of an action system, right? You need to have some, the general fire safety equipment in place. And on top of that, the SCADA system should definitely have certain alerts. So this talks about which will give you like certain critical failures. Generally, what will happen if a fire kicks off, all the inverters will start tripping one by one, right? There will be an insulation fault across the plant and it will happen. Or it will be one of the equipment which is catching fire, let's say an SMB or something. So I think having an alerting system on the solar plant, this is something which is happening now in industrial systems, that they are also putting physical alarms in, let's say, the control room or the LT panel room in the industry, which will give a beep equipment stops working, right? Via digital input from the SCADA to the from the monitoring system to the fire alarm, to the actual alarm in the LT panel room system. So that is definitely helpful. In case of a ground mounted system, we already have fire alarm systems which are supported by SCADA devices, right? How? It will go off on the site as well. You will in your head office, right? Because rooftop ground mounted sites are very remote. You will get an alert in your on your systems, or you'll get SMS or emails alerts on key people's systems within the head office, right? So a SCADA that way is very helpful in order to communicate, yes, that the fire alarm system has gone off at the site. So I hope that answers the question.
Perfect. Thank you, Karthik. Suma, would you like to add something there?
So I just add a couple of bits, Abhay, if you okay.
Yeah.
So what are the sources of power fire actually we are talking about here, right? As you all know, the plants are spread across acres of land actually, and these are really at dry places. Now, two things. One is actually electrical, the sources being the electrical, short circuits, or actually the terminals not being, done properly. So as Mr. Karthikeyan mentioned, that is possible actually in a SCADA. You can have sensors. But in our experience, we have seen in a typical O&M, 50% is actually all, human related things. That is, grass cutting, module cleaning, the security guards. And I'll tell you the biggest source of power is, they will actually smoke that BD and actually put it there out there in the grass. How do you prevent this? So as Mr. Karthikeyan said, only the alert and alarms can be there, having actually, all the smoke detectors everywhere. But in a 500 acres land, is it really possible? So I think the prevention is the only thing where, you don't actually allow the grasses to be out there and, have your land safe. But SCADA for any electrical fires, it is possible actually to detect them. Maybe, you can inside an SMB, you have a monitoring card there. Yes, you can have actually a temperature sensor. When the temperature is shooting actually beyond 70 degree, you have an alarm actually, shooting up. Or actually on the transformer, obviously, you can actually monitor a lot of things. So it's possible actually the answer.
True. And I'll just, add another question here, which, Ashwin had posted is, how can you really have an integration of IoT and legacy system? I think, Ashwin, what we are hearing here is a typical case where you can integrate a legacy system. So let's say your plant was installed in 2012 and you had a legacy system and maybe that OEM doesn't exist anymore. But you had a couple of fire incidents in your plants and you want to take care of that. I think one of the best ways you could possibly do it is have a data logger installed with, like Mr. Karthikeyan and Soma were talking about, have a fire sensor, smoke sensor, a CO2 sensor, all of that, pushing data into the data logger and then creating smart alerts on email or SMS coming to your head office or your site in charge. So I just thought I'll bundle in that question over here, and that's typically how you could go ahead and integrate IoT with PLC. Or tomorrow, if you need a cloud cover by mandate and your existing SCADA cannot add a cloud cover sensor, this is another example of how you could integrate. So great answers. Thank you, Karthikeya and Soma, for chipping in there. I think the next two questions that I'm taking are kind of a mix. There is one question from Karthik. It says a lot of SCADA companies are saying they have advanced smart SCADA. How do we benchmark these algorithms? What is the accuracy that is being guaranteed? And I'm just throwing in the second question as well from Sukrit, which is, can we definitively predict end of life of a plant using such algorithms? So I'm just throwing these two algorithm based questions at the panel. Would love to hear some answers. Go ahead, Karthikeya.
I can take the answer. Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. You can go ahead.
Right. So the first, Abhay, could you talk about the first question again? I think I didn't understand it very well.
So Karthik's question is, there are a lot of companies which are talking about what Prasenjit mentioned, right? That we should have loss drill downs, that we should have analytics, and that we should make use of a lot of algorithms. So the question primarily is, A, how do we benchmark these algorithms? And B, is there a guaranteed performance given by any of the providers?
Got it. So I think this is to answer the question. First of all, I think this is a question very close to my heart. Being an EPC company, we for the last, we have every week we are making decisions on what monitoring system to use where, right? Or what are the kind of features that we want from a certain monitoring system. But I think whenever you are talking about or thinking about as an organization, if you're thinking about choosing a solution, right? You must always first identify your own problems and then try to find the solution to those specific problems. Rather than saying that, okay, there are all these solutions available in the market, can I find problems for these? Okay, that is not the way to go, right? Different scales, different organizations at different scales will have different requirements, right? For example, when we were a small company and what is available in the market, of course, it comes into picture when you know what you want, right? So we wanted a basic one monitoring system for one plant, right? That is the first thing that we wanted when we started a company. So that time we went and said, okay, what is the best monitoring solution available? Can it show me active power? Can it show me days energy? Can I create a report which says daily energy and radiation and PR percentage over the last week? Yes, it can do that. Okay, whether it is my budget, I go and buy it. But when I realized that the same customer has now bought 5 plants with me, I realized that, okay, I need to create a central portal for this customer, right? And then when I have 15 such customers like that, I realize that I need to create a customized customer-wise portal for myself, and as and when your requirement grows, right? I think your need for the kind of solution that you need grows. So it's very important that the basics of the solution are in place, right? You have your reporting, like I said, you should have your reporting, you should have your real-time data, you should have SIM-based connectivity. These are things that matter in the beginning. And once you realize that you have a problem, okay, now let's say you are operating in an environment where the customer wants to know, okay, how much solar are you going to produce tomorrow? Because I have to, let's say, place a bid on the short-term market. So I need to know how much bidding I must do, right? Once you have that problem, now you know that you need a solution which can give you a forecast at a day level, right? And that is all you need. So similarly, I think one should focus on the problems that they are facing and then look for the relevant solution. I believe that the world that we live in now, if you have a good monitoring solution provider, which is willing to give you API access to the data that is being collected, then there is a whole world of online tools and services, software as a service that you can leverage outside of, solar specific systems to solve your problem at the moment, right? When you see that problem is now occurring at scale, okay, if I have just one customer asking me for forecasting, doesn't mean that I'm going to go and change my entire SCADA system and get a new SCADA provider for it, right? So you must solve your problems one at a time. And once you see that you need to scale that problem, then you go to the monitoring system provider and say, okay, I need a system to do this now because I'm having this request too many times. I think that is my view on that.
Sure. Thanks, Karthikeya. I think Prasenjit, would you like to chip in? You had unmuted, and would be great to hear your thoughts on the latter part of the question as well, which is how do we benchmark these algorithms and what can be the accuracy that can be guaranteed?
So see, regarding the accuracy, I would say what Karthikeya was telling, that we should first focus on my problem rather than focusing on my accuracies and all those stuff. So definitely the services which a people will or a service provider will give you will claim that you have an accuracy during the past time period. That is the reason they have been doing that particular service, and they are gaining the market share. So for sure that they have achieved an accuracy of more than 90 or 95%, which I would say a bottleneck, or which I would say minimum benchmark, which we should see as far as this predictive analysis is concerned, not for the forecasting and scheduling, which is still 15% band range. So as far as this predictive analysis is concerned, this 90 to 95%, which I would say should be taken as a benchmark. And obviously, if you have lesser wear and tear of your components and lesser chances of getting those components failure, so then my lifespan will increase. That's for sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Prasenjit. I think Karthik, that's the answer. There wouldn't be an accuracy which is guaranteed, but typically what works is something between a 90-95% is something that today the industry is comfortable with. And I just want to share an anecdote of weather prediction, right? 1998 weather prediction versus 2020 weather prediction. I think, in countries which have invested in satellites, which have invested in numerical weather prediction models, are using supercomputers for prediction, can actually tell you it's going to rain in 4 hours from now. So I think it's a journey. We are on it, and as more and more companies, as more and more dollars come into this industry, it will keep improving. But typically, a 90-95% is what is largely acceptable. Benchmarking can be done basis the output, like Karthikeya mentioned, on what is your pain point and are you able to solve it. So I'll move forward to a sub question around this, which was asked by Datta. Is there any feedback system for online changes? I think the latter part of your question, Datta, has already answered. What do you do with the enormous amount of data that is being pulled in? So is there any feedback system for online changes? I will refer to the same answer that we heard from the panelists just now, that all of these changes have a constant loop. The algorithm learns every time there is a forecast. There is a delta which is calculated basis which there is a deviation penalty which is levied on the IPP, and hence there is a dollar value to the error, and that's the kind of automated feedback that goes into these algorithms. So I'm not putting this question out to the panelists because it was just covered. I think there's a question from Prakash Morankar, which is along similar lines, which says, can we have forecasting and scheduling integrated within the SCADA? So I don't know if somebody would like to take this question.
I don't think forecasting and scheduling should be merged with SCADA. So forecasting and scheduling is a separate AI ML part which needs to be fully trained. You should have your own algorithms built. Nowadays we have a forecasting which is an embedded forecasting. You have to give weightages to your real-time SCADA. We have to give weightages on your turbine or your assets availability. You have to give weightage to your historical data sets. We have to give weightage to my IMD data sets, historical IMD data as well as my current IMD data sets. So they have both data sets now available. So if you see NCM RWF, they forecast 1 is 4 hours ahead forecast and 1 is 7 hours ahead forecast. So those data sets also needs to be integrated to your system. I don't think that SCADA should be integrated with the forecasting and scheduling. So forecasting and scheduling should be always be a separate entity altogether to monitor.
But yes, I'll add for the real-time site conditions, SCADA will be SCADA data will be synchronized with the forecaster, so
Yes.
that we are having the real-time weather as well as the plant availability data. So this then only the forecaster will forecast more accurately once they are having the real-time actual data available.
Correct. Correct.
Correct. I think you heard both points of view in a way. What Prasenjit said is keep it separate. It's a separate ballgame. What Mr. Atul also said is there are advantages of merging SCADA with the forecasting and scheduling software, because one of the problems that at least we've seen in our experience is the lack of the data reaching the forecaster timely, because at the end of the day, their algorithms, if they don't get any input, they don't know what is the active power currently or how many inverters are currently on. So there is merit in merging the two. There is also a lot of merit in merging the two, because if you have two inverters down in a 5 megawatt plant, each inverter being a megawatt each, 40% of your capacity is down, which will ensure that you will get a penalty for those hours while it's down. And if it is not communicated to the forecaster in time, anyways you have 4 blocks delay, right? So it could become an expensive proposition.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Great. So
you can have API. You can have API calls. You can have FTPs,
Correct.
so that you can share your live SCADA data to the forecasters.
Correct. Correct. So there is another question from Vikrant on, is it possible to monitor module level data in a SCADA as it is the heart of a system? Would any of our panelists like to take that?
Okay, on a rooftop level, this is actually feasible, right? So people use optimizers are actually where you can get the data module wise, but on an utility scale projects, so I don't think actually as of now we have mechanisms to monitor at a module level. But yes, at a string level, you can definitely monitor. The sad thing is the prices falling to 2 rupees and all that, people even stop monitoring string level. It's only on the inverter level, right? So modular have been wonderful, but I don't think it's viable anymore.
I would have answered it the same way.
Right. We can use that, means when we have a very smaller installation, we can use the micro inverters.
Correct.
So they can be installed on each module and can give the data. But what we'll do with the data?
Good point. I think I would have answered it the same way. Thank you so much. Thank you, Satul. I'll move forward to the next question. It's a question which actually is probably asked a lot, and maybe most of the panelists will say, why did I take this question? But I think it's an important question. So Abhishek has asked us a question that, when you go to an IoT or a cloud-based solution, the data is being pushed to the cloud. How do you ensure the data protection? So in the world of GDPR, data privacy norms, is a relevant question. So would love for any of us to go ahead and answer this question. How do you protect the data on the cloud?
So I can take that.
Sure.
So the reason I am excited about taking this question is because I started my career in 2013 working for Microsoft Azure.
Wow.
In their analytics division. And since then, back in 2013 also, they were trying to break this myth around security in the cloud, right? Because by all means and measures, the cloud is a much more secure and safer place for your data. If you are with the right provider, because they have all the levers to make it very secure. They have all the data in one place. Of course, the basic SSL security layers are all there in place, SSL, ESL, and it is having that kind of security features on a local server is actually close to impossible and is far beyond anybody's budget, right? So the kind of security that you get by going with a cloud-based monitoring system is really state of the art. You cannot get better security than you get on the cloud.
Okay. And just because we may have a mix of audience in this webinar, I just want to also add at the end of the day, cloud is nothing but a lot of servers kept together on the ground. They're not actually in the cloud, they're on the ground in a building, all connected together and then connected to the internet. How they're secured, like Karthikeya gave us insights about Azure. I think a couple of things that you should ensure if you're going for a cloud-based monitoring solution is try and ensure that it has, let's say, the basics, like Karthikeya mentioned, SSL security. It has, I would recommend having an ISO 27001, ISO 27701. So ISO 27001 ensures that you have cybersecurity norms implemented, data backup, data protection implemented in your organization, and 7701 talks about personally identifiable information management. So that's, I think, more than that, I would recommend going with a larger cloud provider like a Azure or AWS or a Google Cloud, Linode for that matter, because we have the mechanisms, and as individuals, we may not be able to really validate or verify what they're doing, but because they're such large entities and you have other larger organizations which are on these clouds, I think you would be secure. So I just wanted to give also a practical sense of what you could do as a decision maker. I will move to the next question, which is from Mr. Shankar Sarpate, which is what could be the rough cost per megawatt for a SCADA solution? I'll open it to the panel. I think all of us can answer this question.
Abhay, please repeat the question again.
So this question is from Mr. Shankar Sarpate. His question is, what is the rough cost per megawatt for a SCADA solution?
Okay, that's really an open question, right? I mean, so are we talking about multiple rooftops and actually then saying 1 megawatt, or actually a 50 megawatt or 100 megawatt plant? So I think it varies. It might cost from 5,000 rupees per megawatt. If it's actually a large, well, two things. One is actually there's a one-time SCADA installation cost, so that may be around more than 20,000. Also, it all depends on, do you have PPC as part of it? Do you have the servers actually as part of it? So I think it's a really open-ended question. Maybe you should connect to one of the SCADA vendors, and actually if the specifications are shared, we can give it. That's what I feel, unless you have a thumb rule.
I don't know. So like you rightly said, the thumb rule could vary. You could have a small rooftop, 1 megawatt monitoring, as low as 10,000 a megawatt. You could have really advanced monitoring with a lot of security, with a lot of redundancy, which could go as high as $1.5 lakh per megawatt. But in order to not leave you with such a big range, I would say the cost of the SCADA deployment would depend on these factors. Right? Factor number one, how many tags do you want to monitor? So do you just want, let's say, generation, or you want generation plus active power plus blah, 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 or you want A, B plus, you also want, let's say, 10 other sensors, controls, etc. So one is parameters. Second is, what is the looking at? Are you looking at redundancy where one device fails and something takes over after a minute, or something that is on a hot standby which takes over almost immediately? It depends upon how much do you want to store the data, or how long do you want to store that data. So let's say you're polling the data at a frequency of 1 second or 1 minute. The amount of data that you collect in a as high as 2-3 GB of data. Now, do you want to flush this data at the end of the day? Do you archive it, or do you want to just keep it in the forever? The last two factors is in terms of cybersecurity. How much of cybersecurity do you want to implement on your system? And the last one would be, how are you doing the basic design of your plant? So let's say you have one central station where it's coming in, and you have just one IoT-based data logger or one PLC sitting there. Probably it will be much, but is it possible? Is it not possible? So quite a few factors which would finally help you arrive at that 4 megawatt cost. So I think that's a question. We had another question which I think we had already answered, but came back again. The questions from which monitoring system is more effective, or IoT? So I think there are some confusions on this. If any of us would like to aware of what is SCADA, what is would love to hear.
So did you ask actually which one is more effective?
That's his question. So his or her question: which monitoring system, SCADA or IoT?
SCADA or IoT? Okay. So finally, when we use a monitoring system, what is important is data to be collected. Okay. The biggest problem what the entire ecosystem of this monitoring system in our experience. See, I'll just come top down. That is, you are actually monitoring your system and your data is in the cloud. So that's perfect. There are companies like AWS, Azure, and there are many more actually who are very solid and robust in that area. So the second part is the data going from your control room or actually from your inverter room to the cloud. Here also, we have got actually very good data loggers, hardwares, or actually systems which can push the data. The real problem I see is collection of data at the control room from your last mile equipment. I'm talking about either string combiner boxes or the inverter or the WMS. So if I are really going to see which system is better, SCADA or IoT, I would say the workmanship actually of how you are collecting the data from the equipment. That is where you need to focus on. Else, I don't really see a difference between IoT or SCADA because both are actually, when I say SCADA system, I assume you're referring to a PLC system here. If you look into history, PLC is a legacy system which can really work very fast and actually, in microseconds it can react. Yes, that is actually wonderful to have it. It is definitely more rugged. But does a solar PV system need a PLC? I don't know. We are actually really, taking the data once in a minute. That's good enough to retrieve data because the cloud is continuously moving and nothing is stable out here, unlike an machinery. So from that perspective, it doesn't matter. It is an overkill is actually what I would say having a PLC system. So IoT actually might be better. But what you need to ensure is either your cabling methodology or if you're using RF or actually any kind of that last mile is, I feel, the weakest link in the chain of this SCADA system. It doesn't matter whether it's IoT or PLC. You need to focus on that. You need to have vendors actually who can really help you get the data right. Otherwise, none of this analytics, will be of any meaning. We have seen, when we are monitoring the WMS, we see a lot of spurious data is actually coming in now and then, right? Now, if you don't clean that data, then again, your analysis will go for a toss. So I think this is where you need to really look into your suppliers or vendors and talk to them how I can get clean data. That makes a difference, Abhay. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I think that's a great answer. And just for the benefit of audience, SCADA, like Suma said, is supervisory control and data acquisition. Right now, it is being synonymously used with remote monitoring solutions. So you call it SCADA or RMS. The data acquisition is that component which Suma was talking about. How do you fetch the data from the equipment? So how do you talk to that equipment and bring that data in? And there are three things in this. One is, what is the communication protocol? So you could have Modbus, you could have TCP, you could have ABCD, right? Those are the protocols. Second is, what is the channel or the medium? Are you using an optical fiber? Are you using a Cat5? Are you using a Cat6? So that's the medium. And the third thing is in terms of what is the polling frequency, etc., at which you are taking this. Next part is where the differentiation comes, which is after you have the end equipment with the polling device. What is the device? And when we speak about a PLC or an embedded PC or a data logger, there are three types of technologies on the basis of which the data acquisition is. And so I just wanted to really simplify it to ensure that, and if you remember in the architecture that I showed earlier on was just to communicate this. At the end of the day, SCADA, RMS, it's all the same thing. Let's not get confused with that. All right, so I'll move to the next question. I'll address this to Dinesh because I think, Dinesh, we've not been able to get your views too much. So Dinesh, the question is from Mr. Shankar Pathe. What is your view on manless plants and central monitoring using AI and machine learning?
I thought of putting that question and my answer to that. So basically, being the NG, we are in a process of integrating of our all solar assets centrally, and this is very much required because the huge data points are collected on day basis. As you said, 20 megawatt of plant with almost 7 million of the data points generated daily basis. So to monitor our solar plants accurately, suggest a way forward for improvement in the generation, and again a predictive analysis to improve the generation numbers. So I personally feel that integration of these two things is a need of industry, or going forward it has to be. And again, I will add the component of scheduling and forecasting. I agree that there are a number of members or companies available in the market. They are taking data from various sources like IMD or maybe SolarJS or a number of things. So the quality of the data that you give it to them, then accuracy of that particular forecaster will increase. So definitely, I agree with Mr. Shankar Pathe. It is required, and maybe a next level of the trend in the industry will be that.
Superb. Thank you, Dinesh.
Abhay, I'd like to add. This is actually the requirement. What Shankar is saying, I can reply to Shankar also, but yes, let me reply to everybody here. Because from the starting, we have started with the optimization of the capex and opex because tariffs are going down. Then we started for the analytics, artificial intelligence, and everything. So everything is possible. Yes, it is possible. And how it is possible? By actually reducing the monotonous work, okay, from the field. By reducing the work which actually people are just going and not doing by any means, but just going and coming and increasing the man hours. Okay. So yes, we have to increase the penetration of IoT digitization into the system. The integration of CMS and CMMS should happen. But all these things will happen only when we are very tough now, because all these things needs money right now. So today we'll spend, or today we'll invest actually into the system, and then only we will be moving ahead for the manless plants also. Okay. Today we are going, I'll take an example which everybody can understand very fairly, that today one of the maintenance engineer is going to a string commander box. He is doing a regular maintenance, which you have to do every quarter or every half yearly. He is going in out, it's a 20 in and 1 out box. So he's going and tightening everything. Okay. So he is not making a sense that he's doing a thermography and he's tightening the actual one which is loose. How it will lose? Yeah, it will not lose until and unless you are making it loose. So in this way, we are over tightening it and making it a damage in long run. Not immediately, but yes, after 1, 2, 3, 4 years, it will damage definitely, because there is no torque guns or everything is there. It is just a hand tight. Okay. Hand can be very hard also. Hand can be very soft also. Okay. So it is again relative. So rather to do a preventive maintenance every time, we should be moving to the predictive maintenance. By smart means, then only we will be able to reduce the capex, we will be able to reduce the opex, and then only these things will become practical on ground. Otherwise, we are just talking and everybody will forget tomorrow. And again, we will have a seminar to understand that how we have to reduce all these things.
Great answer. Thank you so much for that. I'll move ahead to the second last question for the day. This question is from Anshu Verma. Can we analyze soiling remotely? So would any of you like to take this question?
Yes, if you have the string data, right? So that can give actually very good insights on what is actually soiling impact. So if you have a good data on the string, I would say it is possible.
Right. I would completely agree. Anshu, the way you should look at this problem is what is the size of the plant that you're talking about? If it's your own rooftop, possibly you don't need to do this remotely. But if you're talking about a 200, 400 megawatt single location plant, like Soma said, if you have string data, we have algorithms which can tell you the percentage soiling on each of the inverters. It can also tell you what is the generation loss that is happening. The other prominent or the way the industry is currently doing is the use of soiling stations. Brings you back to the point that we discussed, that if you want to invest in a soiling station today, how do you invest if you have a SCADA which doesn't allow integration, right? So that's something that Karthikeya spoke about in the beginning. So I think to give you a quick short answer, the answer is yes. The soiling can be analyzed remotely using a sensor like a soiling station, or just using data analytics. Both are fine. I will move to the last question for the day, which is from Girish on what is the impact of the SCADA on warranty insurance settlement from insurance. Mr. Pachauri, would you like to?
Yes. So it is important. Yes. So whenever you are claiming any insurance, so nowadays the surveyors are also smart. They know solar more. So so they will come to you and definitely will ask for the sequence of events. Okay, so sequence of events can only be generated by a automated system. It cannot be generated by logbooks or everything, and they will not believe on your logbooks also. Okay, so yes, so SCADA data is very, very much important while you are raising any insurance claims, and especially when you are having a weather monitoring station at site and you are raising a claim, let's say for a force majeure, for a typhoon, or maybe some flood or anything, or some heavy rain, it impacted your plant, then yes, those data will be very much supportive in nature for clearing your claims from the insurance companies.
Perfect. Any other anecdotes? I don't know if Jitendra ji are still around, but from your experience, have you experienced anything in your plant where you had to go for a warranty claim or an insurance settlement or any of the panelists? I just thought I'll check with Mr. Jitendra also, because he's heading the O&M division at Shashwat Cleantech. Karthikeya, I see you.
Yes, I can talk about this. So again, what Mr. Pachauri said is entirely completely true. I can vouch for that. We have had a typhoon, we had a cyclone affect our site, and unfortunately, on that particular day, our wind sensor was not working, or was not connected. And it was just a big confusion, and we had to go to the nearby plant and get their data for the surveyor, because they really insist on getting that data. So that is one. Another one, interestingly, when you go for not for a general insurance claim or not for a force majeure insurance claim, but let's say an equipment related warranty claim, be it on the inverter, be it on the modules, right? Then also, especially if you're doing it on the modules, then module manufacturing companies ask you for string data. In fact, they would want you to have string data. They will ask you to do a random thermographic study to talk about what the spread of the problem is, right? Even for something as visibly clear as decoloring, after the plant is decolored and you're saying, boss, these modules have become decolored in 3 months. You have to do something about it. They're going to come back and ask you for string data. So it's super important, and it is super important that you have that data from the starting of your plant, right? I think the biggest problem sometimes that happens is that plant is started and it is taking 3 months or 6 months for the data to really come online. And if anything happens in those first 3 to 6 months, it's going to be very difficult to, save grace.
And I'll also suggest everybody to install, at least during construction phase also, at least a rain sensor and wind sensor. so that when we are talking about insurance, it is very, very important. Okay, because nowadays sites are coming in deep Gujarat where rain are very, very frequent, and wind can be very, very high also. So whenever raising a request to the insurance company, you must be having on ground data. So okay, so install it, as you have to install later or sooner. So okay, so install it sooner.
Great point. You have something to add, I see.
And I would like to add, when we go to the insurance agencies, if it is a material damage kind of claim that we are going to raise, then definitely they will carve out for the reasons, whether your protection system operated, and then if those operated, what was the timing they operated, which protection system particularly operated at which time. So proving our system is adequacy, that the fault is something else and we should go for material damage claims, then this data is really helpful. So having a SCADA is always better.
Super. Thank you, Mr. Dinesh. So I think, almost done with time. So I'll let Mr. Jitendra summarize of, Jitendra, from your perspective, how has a SCADA helped you? We heard you speak about what are the problems or challenges, but if you could summarize how a SCADA has helped you in O&M, and then we could just sign off. आपकी तरफ से concluding remarks अगर जितेंद्र,
Can you repeat, sir?
I'm just saying if you could conclude for all of us and summarize कि SCADA से हमें कैसे फायदा मिल सकता है, या आपके interaction में with a SCADA, how it has helped you. Then I'll go ahead and close the session. So over to you, Jitendra ji. Just a summary of how SCADA has helped you. During no problem at all. No problem. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining this webinar. So I was your moderator for today. I didn't give an introduction earlier. So my name is Abhay and I've been with the Mahindras for the last 8 years. Yeah, sorry. Is there a question? Okay, I'll go ahead. So yeah, I've been in the energy industry for the last 12 years. It's been a fun journey, and I really appreciate the time that all of you have put in by joining in this webinar. And
Please go ahead, Abhay. I think somebody is on.
Yeah, I was coming to thanking the audience, but I think somebody wants me to thank them earlier, so I'll cut my thanks to my fellow panel members. But thanks a lot, audience. I think having 200 people on the webinar at the same time and not having anyone turning on their videos in a place where we get distracted or turning on their mics and disturbing everyone else. I think you've been a spectacular audience. Questions were amazing. I'm super sorry if I missed your questions. I was trying to dabble between the chat screen and these windows, but I tried whatever I could. Do email your questions to the EQ team. I saw some requests for the presentations. I think we'll share it with the EQ team and you can have access to that. But it's 6 o'clock. The time is up. Thank you so much and take care.
Bye.
Thank you, Abhay.
Thanks, Abhay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Very well moderated.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone. Abhay sir has moderated it extremely well. And I think thank you all for an overwhelming response and making us realize that this issue is so important and so many people are interested to talk with so much of enthusiasm and zeal. And so many people have enthusiastically done the chats, and I think the engagement rate was very, very high on this webinar. So yes. Let us do more on these topics, more discussions on these topics, and also let's wait really for the pandemic to end so we can do a real world conference on this. So thank you very much for overwhelming response, ladies and gentlemen. And also I encourage that, on this topic or any topic, if you want to contribute any article or something, so feel free to contact us. Or if you want to suggest any more topics of webinar, So feel free to contact us, and we'll be definitely happy to serve the industry. So with these thoughts, I wish you a very, very good evening and a very, very safe pandemic time, and very good luck for 2021. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Anand.
Thank you, Anand.
Thanks, Anand.
Thank you, Anand.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.